and you'll see that up to level Z. So I've been I've been updating this with the students that I've been meeting with, but and you will likely have uh, an initial level for your students, and so I put that into the spreadsheet just as a reference point, so that when I meet with the kids the first time, I know where to start from. So this was
Hey,
my
Andrew.
yes. B, go ahead.
So, did that information that you just pulled up on the previous screen, was that from the kids having had this done last year or in prior years? Can you access that through RazKids?
The information that I was able to find for
Yeah,
most kids was a reading level. I don't know exactly where it came from. I assume it
I
came
see.
from a previous class and teacher. Barbara, what's up?
Why? So I know some teachers have their, I'm an RSP. Some classroom teachers have their roster of kids who are using RAS Kids. Um, Now, as SPED, are we going to be able? I use RAS Kids now with my students, but I haven't rostered them in RAS. So would we be able to have our own RAS roster if we don't have them in our synergy?
That's a great question. And in theory, there's a direct add feature, and it would be preferable if the district set you up.
Yeah,
So
because we've been waiting for synergy access. But do you think without synergy access, just knowing their emails, I could make a classroom?
I hope so. I think that I recall there was an add student feature. So I think if I so I click here up on the top, add students. Uh, I'm not in position at the moment to test this out. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the home teachers are doing necessarily, but I am sharing students. So a
Okay.
student could be
Thank
in
you.
more than one class. So
Thank you.
anyway, that's how I would get
So,
there. Go ahead.
hey Andrew, I just wanted to for Barbara's question. Yes, you can add students to your class as long as you have access to RAS Kids, and it will not interfere with the students in other classes. You just have to make sure that students um, have access to the RAS Kids that you have set up. They have to know the teacher name, and then you have to provide them with their when they log in, they'll see their name, and then you have to provide them with a password
Okay.
so that they can log in.
All right. Thank you. Thanks,
Yep.
Carmen.
So the first thing I did was, like I said, I set up a spreadsheet. I got whatever information that I could, assuming most kids had been in RAS Kids. And there's two methods to actually getting to running records documents. There's one that's built into RAS Kids, which I'll show you. Um, I don't like it as much because I find that loading materials is really finicky. But I will show you what that looks like. The first method. So I will go back to. I'm actually going to go all the way back to sort of the RazPlus landing back on RazPlus. I'm going to go to assessments, and under assessments, I want specifically the benchmark passages. So I start on the RazPlus landing page. I click on the menu, the drop down for resources. I look under assessments, and I go to benchmark passages. So I'll get this loaded up. And what this will allow is there's a number of different readings per reading level, either already loaded up or easy to access. So level AA, level A, I, for example. If I want to get to another level, so I say I want level E, and make sure I have access to those resources, the resources, you'll notice that it didn't pop up. And I find that this happens probably every other time that I have trouble getting to the exact running records resources that I want. And so that's why I developed a method, what I'll show you in a second. So assuming I did want level E, I want the running record. So I'll download the PDF, and then I'll open it, for example, immediately in the browser, and we can access it this way. But as I mentioned, I actually don't think this is the most efficient way, given some limitations within RazKids. I want to show you the second way, which I think is a lot easier to set up the way I want to use it, which is I haven't fully completed this process, but I'm in the process of downloading all the material or a lot of the materials from RazKids and adding them into Google Drive. And so you can access it here through this link. And what you'll see, oh, that's not the one. Let's see, how about this one? Okay, we want this one. And so what you'll see is that I've set up a folder with A through L levels, and I'll get, by the end of the week, I'll get it all the way through Z for us. And in each folder, I've added the running record and then the reading check, which are two resources you can use to do running records. And the reason why I like this, well, number one, I like this better than going through RazKids. I find the RazKids, it just doesn't load smoothly. But what you do have to do, if you're going to use the link that I set up in the document, is you can't open a document just with a right click and then open in a new tab. What you have to do is take the URL for people who haven't done running records, the baseline like theory or philosophy behind it is students need to have a 95% understanding of the words that they're reading, minimum. Because if you don't understand, if you're missing more than 5 out of 100 words, the theory is that you're not able to get to reading comprehension. So what we're doing in running records at the most basic level is just making sure that students can have a basic fluency with reading the words that they're seeing. So the first thing that we're doing, in reference to Claire's comment, is so if I pull this up, and I noticed today that kids actually need this, they need us to zoom in. So I zoom in so kids can see it really well. And what I'm doing is I'm having kids just read to me. And I have a little piece of paper next to me, and I just make a tally mark for any word that they are stumbling on. So a word that it feels like they don't pronounce it correctly, meaning that they probably don't know what it means. They simply they stumble on it, they skip over it. So errors in their reading, or any word that is not coming through fluently, I'm making it as a student is making per reading level. What I'm going to share with you is that I think that you can get, once you're used to doing this, I think you can get a pretty accurate read just from listening to, you can make a pretty accurate assessment just from listening to their read, whether it's the right reading level for them or not. They're either like comfortably moving through the text or they're not. And I think it's pretty easy to experience that with them as you watch them read. And I understand other people likely have different approaches, but for me, my first approach is just to listen to them read. And so if they're, say, we're doing level E, and if they're reading comfortably level E, then I'll just pull up the next level because I already have it here, or I will already have it open. I'll have them start reading level F. And I'll kind of move them on this spectrum until I'll either move them up until the point at which they're not reading comfortably, or if they're not reading, if we're at an initial level and I don't find that they're reading comfortably, a more quick and dirty online perspective, I think this will get you a pretty accurate read on where your students are at. Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you, Andrew. Where does the comprehension questions come in?
So, because we have students with, for a lot of students who English is not their first language, I think that you will notice times when a student, where you can't get an accurate assessment or a comprehensive assessment just from listening to them read, because English may not be their first language. And so in those cases where you're like, I think this kid's reading at an E level. I've heard this kid read in class. I've seen this kid read, like, answer questions that are pretty sophisticated. If I'm not sure, if I have a question in my mind that I'm not sure if this kid's at the reading level, I can't make an assessment. If I have a question and I'm not quite sure what level the kid's at, then I'll do the secondary step, which is to go to the quick check to see where their comprehension of their reading was.
Yeah, because and is there a certain number they have to get correct out of it? I'm kind of equating it
with a specific number, and more concerned with, like, are they reasoning it through? Are they, because they don't have the text right in front of them, so I feel like asking them to specific recall without a text. I'm sorry, that's a long way of me saying I'm not as concerned with a specific number as much as I'm concerned with, are the students seem to be generally able to answer the reading questions that are like correlated with that level.
Because there's some kids that like can decode, like, like savants, but then when it comes to comprehending, especially kids with autism, but I get it. No, thank you. I see they don't have the rubric like Fontes and Pinnell does, but I get it. Thank you.
There certainly are. There's not one way to do this, but
Right.
I think and it sort of comes down to your own experience with it of what feels right, and it sort of builds.
It gives you a ballpark where to start with them. I think. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So those are. Oh, let me. Does anyone have any questions before we go forward? Okay. So the next part is actually implementing the running record. So I get it set up first. You could do it by trying to get the document. It's up to you and what you feel like will work for you. Uh, I should note that there is a feature in RazKids where you can assign them to record themselves reading, which I guess is sort of an automated feature. I don't particularly like this because you still have to then review their reading, and I feel like there's more likely to make a mistake trying to make an assessment of a kid reading one at one level that they're recording themselves at rather than being able to be with them one on one and move the levels around to test them. So it does have an automated feature which I added the steps to get to, and it's not something I'm going to use. So that's something you should keep in mind. In terms of the running records procedure or how I've been going about it, setting up the readings beforehand in the browser so that I can shift between D and E and F and whatever level that I may think students are at. I've been taking students into the breakouts one at a time. One section that I have, that's not an issue. Another section I have is a little more lively, and so I'm considering just putting all the students in breakouts so that they can work in a focused way without me being on top of them. Something you'll have to figure out for yourself. I have students read the passage, starting with the assigned level or wherever I have them at, or wherever I tested them at the last time, and then I'm basic on the most basic level. I'm listening for their comfort reading the passage and decide whether I want to push it up or down. And the secondary tool is the reading check. I have two examples that I took from students this week that I can show. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions? Okay. Here's an example of me doing a reading. Can you tell me anything else about that you remember from Taste This?
Bitter, sweet.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Okay. And what was the other book that you were mentioning?
Using less energy. It was about using less energy and that you can save energy.
Oh, okay. Very, very good. All right, Celine. So we're going to do a little reading together. We're going to start at this level F. And what I'd like you to do, can you see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to start on this first line, and I just want you to read. So I just want to listen to you read. If you could read just out loud, starting from the first line.
Okay. When people plant, they use different colors.
Keep going.
When people paint, they use different colors.
Very good. Can you see this? Is this big enough?
Add red, yellow, and blue together to make other colors.
Good. Keep going.
Add red to yellow to make orange.
Yep.
Add blue to yellow to make green.
Okay.
Add red to blue to make purple. Add black to make colors dark. Add white to make colors light.
Okay.
Add red, yellow, blue, green, orange, and purple together. What do you get? All the colors together make brown.
Ooh, very good. Nice reading, Celine. I'm making tallies for words that they either misread, forget to read, or seem to struggle with generally. And my basic assessment was that student read fairly comfortably the text that was in front of her. So I moved her up to the next level just to see where her reading was at.
All right. Are the words big enough, or do you need me to make them?
Go ahead, B.
Sorry. So you are tallying on paper.
Yep.
And I mean, this being maybe special ed has to pay a little more attention to these details, but she did flip 2 words. Do you notate that?
I probably did.
Okay.
My general assessment was she read it pretty comfortably. There were some. She didn't seem to have trouble with spelling. There were just like getting used to the format. It just by the last half of it, she read it smoothly. So I felt like it was fine to move on. Or I thought it was worth testing her at the next level on that basis.
Okay, thanks.
Bigger.
A little bigger.
Okay. Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to start from the top, and you can just read all the way through.
Okay. I walk into the garden to see how my plants have grown. My plants have dark green leaves and pretty red fruit that I like to eat. I start to pick some fruit from the plants. A squeeze and poke the fruit to see what is ready to pick. After I pick for a while, I look into my bag. There is so much fruit inside. My hands go into the bag as if they have a mind of their own. They pick up the yummy red fruit that I want to taste. I cannot wait to get inside to wash it and eat it. Strawberries.
Good. And how does the boy which one feels it? Does he smell it, feel it, or taste it? For number 2.
He tastes it.
Okay. Well, you told me that he squeezes the fruit. Carry a bag. Okay, excellent. And what word tells the reader that the boy likes the way strawberries taste?
Yummy.
Very good. And last one. What is a garden? Is it a place to grow plants, a place to buy fruit, or a place to pick out a bag?
A place to grow plants.
All right.
A running record that I did with a student today, and I feel like the student is comfortably at an F level, and I probably kept her at F, and I think she's pretty close to going up to a G. And when I test her next month, that I would assume that would be the case. And with that, any questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna stop recording my own screen, and I'll upload this and make it publicly available. I think that's about it. If there's no more questions.
Hey, I'd love to jump in and just ask Andrew. We have